Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditation practice that enters a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. This week, we'll jump right into a simple additive rule set. Elements that have a way to propagate and grow into a larger system and then potentially emerge as something organic from that simple synthetic movement of a shape. During the exercise, I'll use pencil, but pen will work just fine, and I don't think we'll get time for it today, but it could be fun to add some color, and at the end, I'll do that after the exercise. If you're interested in continuing to explore the territory you map out there through your mindful practice of drawing, it might be fun to take this farther in and see how a mixing and blending of the layers of interaction can create something of an organism from these simple rules. So go ahead and gather your paper, pen, pencil, colored pencil, whatever you'd like to draw with, and let's draw together. General pattern might just be stuck on my mind if it's familiar from a few weeks back, but it's not too important. What we'll look at is a kind of growing system, shape system of additive components. And I think I'll use mostly pencil. I have some colored pencils if we get to it, but even regular pencil or shading or a pen doing different directions of fill would work just fine. And the simple rules to get us started, kind of the main focus of the meditation, will be a shape, something like half a Y or a L with a little bit of opening to it. The variability of that is up to you. You can be more right angled, could be more hockey stick and curved, but I think a nice simple thing that can work in any orientation. So a shape can change direction, whether that's orthogonal or arbitrary. You can change size, can mirror, and kind of like any object, physical or in the digital world, it can kind of move around, rotate, and scale. And from that simple setup, we'll explore a series of rules that grow something out. So for instance, on one of these little bends, it could spawn two new little bends, maybe perpendicular to itself, in this, maybe just at any angle you want. In this case, all on the left, or we could have one where you could alternate sides. And that's something for a minute or two on the warm-up, just to think about establishing a basic rule. And as we do the exercise, we'll try to stick with it, but from time to time the rule flips sides, changes, or just gets lost, and that's okay. So what I'll think is, if I have an L, each leg of the L can branch a new L, and I'll go off on alternating sides, and the L's are always trying to kind of reach out. That'll be my general guidance. But beyond that, it's up to interpretation, where that L comes from, and you start to get a little bit of a branching system. And as you go, other things maybe will take place in terms of changing size. The L's get smaller as you go out, or get bigger as you go out. They can start new paths, and we'll get this a bit of a fractured, growing system of simple shapes. And once we get that to take up a good area of the page, we'll come back and then wander through it and give it some color or some variation, see what comes out of it. So the basic part, a simple element and some rules about how it propagates on the page, lets us focus in on the marking of each element. Lets us release and worry about the overall configuration and just take each moment at its own pace and its own time and see how something grows. Take a couple of breaths to get ready for the exercise, bringing to mind that system that you're beginning there, the making of the shape, the rules of placing new shapes and any rule of orientation and change over subsequent placings, whether that's a change in size or orientation. And a part of the training or the exercise of the mindfulness will be keeping those general rules in mind as we go forward. Trying not to get too carried away or lost, and always returning to them when we do lose our attention. Since this will kind of grow out, just start somewhere near the middle and see how it expands. The first few, breaking that empty page, taking them at your pace, and establishing the first trajectory with that open door or open L shape, and then holding the rules set in the mind, applying the first propagations, the same branching out, starting from roughly the middle of any segment, alternating along the two segments, but no preference as to which way it alternates or which way the branch turns. Just reaching out in my visual interpretation, leaving some room for play within the system. And noticing in the first few rounds through how you start to make decisions. You find a jump quite a bit, sometimes starting on the inner leg of the branch, sometimes on the outer leg. We'll start to bring that a little bit into consistency for a while. See if we can hold it a little tighter and just repeat a series. First branch, then propagation, say inner branch, then outer branch, and just enough there to have a cycle that we keep in our attention as we enter into our breathing a little bit. We can repeat through our mind or through a little whisper those subsequent cycles. So as you're ready to take wherever the next shape starts, anywhere in the system, noting your sequence, may inner branch, out, outer branch, out and away, inner branch, out, outer branch, out. Simple rule, simple sequence. We can take a breath with each engagement of that sequence. Becoming stable and present, inner branch, operation, a breath, and then outer branch, operation. Moving through our established sequence. First, a little bit slow. The system is already at play, so we can enter with a calm evenness of the breath. Breathing in to start an operation and exhaling through its completion. Maybe letting those exhalations take greater influence over the body, really filling out some space. And aligning more with the exhalation, moving slowly with it, letting it trail off in that in-between time where the eye can absorb a bit, or you can relax into the empty space of the breath. Breathing to start, exhaling along with your action. Trying to follow that sequence, relationship of branch, shape, and propagation, location, and orientation, aligned with the breath. In to place, out to move. And from time to time, you may notice in that space between the breath emptying and the body preparing for another inhalation, whether you've placed the pencil on the place of the prescribed sequence or the mind drifts a little and wanders to where the eye guides. You can realign or let it take a new path, see what happens. A pretty good amount of branches already. The slow breath building, the space filling from the pattern. You may notice as the density grows, even though it's expanding, branches approach each other. And we have to make a decision based on our visual system. We shrink to avoid or allow crossing over. All are fine. But new rules emerge as the complexity builds, one simple layer of rule at a time, one cycle of breath at a time. And no system can predetermine all of its outcomes. So those unique places where something adapts and adjusts become special moments, cases of anomaly, of exploration, potential for emergence of something new. And since we've done a good exercise of entering into our sequence, cycles, the breath, bringing oxygen and slowness to the body, we can let that be our base, our foundation. We're moving at a more natural pace, letting that support us as we may explore a little more quickly the increasing density and structure on the page. We're trying to keep that same sequence, moving around, finding unpropagated branches, beginning fresh, a new sequence of adding shapes. We'll never run out, as each new one makes an opportunity for two more. And we just play along the edges. But since the system can grow forever, we can Let that stabilize and bring another reading into what we have there. Would you feel ready, put in your last few branches for now. Can always add more at any time. We'll begin to read the system, to see into its space, and give it another layer of form, figure there. This structure supporting something else. What I'll start to do is just begin by giving it thickness or shape, an outline, coming around, moving along one structure, beginning to cap them or encapsulate them. You can always leave some open ends. If you want to add more branches, they can always overlap and extend the pencil flexible medium. And they become a little bit thickened. They begin to take form from structure or system. And we exercise our mind-hand connection, our eye tracking, processing, feeding the hand new coordinates every moment along the smooth or curvy system, roughly mapping the contour of that edge of what came before, working around the structure to give it presence beyond the abstract rules of the system, making choices about how to squeeze through narrow gaps, move over or under something. A continuous visual processing, building out from a simple structure into greater and greater potential for complexity, figure, and maybe a little imagining of what we see. You might find places of starting and stopping. You can begin somewhere, work around a branch, come back, and find its beginning again. And there's always another one to start off on. Or you might find this long sequence of moving through space, noticing that rules of propagation that have created such a large organism, taking up vast area of the page, all connected. Maybe some parts slipping over or under each other, becoming multi-dimensional. And as you move, your densities, anywhere similar to mine, start to feel the hand work, this constant change of direction. Start to notice all the little muscles fed by the impulses from the eye, tracking along in a very simple set of straight lines that now, under continuous load, bringing with it perhaps a bit of fatigue. You can breathe into that. Slow down, or loosen the grip a little bit, take a break if needed, or spend some time with that build-up intensity and the continued action. Feel where it activates the small muscles of the hand or the larger, controlling muscles of the forearm. Notice the pressure on your fingertips, the sides of the finger, the guide, the complex negotiation, up, down, left, right, diagonal, all around this expanding map. Keep the breath even, not slow, not fast, but even. Let the breath and the speed share in that evenness. Our mind can move to the breath for a while. Make sure it's there and operating. And back to the hand for a while. Keep its speed consistent. And give it a little accuracy nudge. The accuracy just being, does it go where you want it to go? You may approach the end of all the branches, find the completed outline, or keep going for a little bit with that figure established, and to work my way into some of the spaces between, adding with fewer rules but similar expression, form, and context, more layers, these curves reaching out, reaching back in. You can go around again, play within a space, small growing system expanding out from an original structure, taking on new forms, reacting to the environment around it. The hand making more decisions, more complexity to get between spaces. Always tracking back along something found. Little folds and wrinkles or contours. A constantly growing, moving system. With its own little strange moments. Fitting, but emerging unique. Well, there's vast territory to work into. Some are just where they are in their own cycle or process. We don't have to finish every single one part growing at a different rate than another, filling the space within through density, through new figures, mapping their bodies to that original system of simple elves, sometimes sharing characteristics, others finding new configurations. And they have just a few minutes left. I guess the time gets pulled in to the breath, into the system. The pre-ideas, the potential to bring color, fading. Maybe we continue another time, the same drawing, or play with it after the exercise. At a time for a few minutes of noticing patterns, noticing the ways you may engage with the novel spaces of your own system. There are new shapes emerging that could start new patterns. Shapes that catch your eye, figures that move, dance, and bring interest. That's where some tone or shadow might play a role, filling the space between, highlighting the original, slowly propagating another system through the system, the variation. To see where the map can go. And for now, we find our last few engagements for the exercise. The final few wiggles through space. Holding a little ground. Take a few final breaths with your last curve engagements. Noticing inside the replenishing oxygen from those middle periods of deep, nourishing breaths. Noticing the slight fatigue or discomfort tends to fade into the background. With enough practice, everything becomes used to the moving. But as you feel ready, giving some attention to that working hand, bringing the two together as you set down your pen or pencil, giving them a little pressure towards each other and maybe a little expansion to the fingertips and roll to the palms, stretching out all those muscles that have been contracted around and working in their tiny ranges. A new pulsing sensation for them to wake up, refill in a new way, flooding oxygen, and have the hand replenish itself after that little bit of exercise. And this is a time where you may bring your practice to a close. The hand a little tired, the breath refreshed, the body relaxed. But if your mind is excited or engaged, or if you found something there that's kind of interesting, let me know about it in the comments and give it a like. But follow me along as I continue in a little bit of time lapse with a little bit of music, some more relaxing drawing, and fill in some of those spaces between all the wiggles that have emerged on that paper. Or if you're done for the day, I hope whatever you do after this is great. Draw well. Thank you.